Are you trying to decide between living in the Lexington suburbs or the Columbia suburbs here in South Carolina? Well, you're not alone. This is probably one of the most common decisions people face when relocating the Midlands of South Carolina. We haven't narrowed down exactly where we want to live, but we do like the area. Now, let me save you a 20-minute video. Totally just kidding. I do hope you stick around as I'm going to dive into the pros and cons of each area, breaking down the different suburbs, what kind of lifestyle you can expect, some key things you should know before making a move, and comparing what housing actually costs, because that matters too, right? But let me give you that Reader's Digest version to start with. Now, keep in mind, this is my perspective, someone who grew up in the suburbs of Los Angeles, California, and moved here with my wife on a leap of faith 10 years ago with no guidance like this. So, Northeast Columbia, it's kind of going to be more of that urban feel, but you do have true master plan communities like Lake Carolina and the Summit. So while you have country club neighborhoods like Wood Creek Farms and Wildwood. Elgin is going to be more rural America, but it's gaining popularity because of its proximity to Columbia. Blythewood, it's also going to be rural America, but it has that touch of suburbia with some higher end communities tucked in, and Doco Meadows Park where they host community events. It's actually turned into one of the fastest growing towns in the area, and we'll dive into why that is later. Forest Acres, kind of more of that urban sprawl, but has a ton of trendy shops and restaurants lining the main highway. Now, on the Lexington and Lake Murray side of town, Chapin, much more of that small town America. Irmo, urban sprawl. They still have their community park where they host events, so people assume it's a small town and kind of drive around looking for their quaint downtown strip, only to find chain stores, a mall, and our one and only Costco. West Columbia, again, urban sprawl, but they built a trendy downtown with brewers and more, so it's becoming more popular. Lexington, it's kind of your typical suburb, and it's the fastest growing area in the Midlands, so it's trying to prevent from turning into suburban sprawl, but it has that quaint downtown that gives it southern charm. Anything further south in Lexington, Pillion, Swansea, Gaston, that's going to be rural America, and we're not going to be hitting those in this video. But let's dive into the details of the things that matter most. Help you truly decide. So let's start with the Lexington side of town, then we'll head over to Columbia. So when people refer to the Lexington suburbs, a little bit confusing because you have Lexington County, the town of Lexington, zip codes of Lexingtons, but they're usually talking about Lexington itself, including Red Bank and the White Knoll area, the Irmo area, Chapin, in West Columbia. Now, let's get started with Lexington itself. So Lexington is one of the fastest growing areas in the state, and for many good reasons. I mean, I know a ton of families tell me they love it here because you get that small town charm, strong public schools, and a ton of new developments with amenities. Plus, you got tons of shopping and dining in the area, and new ones popping up daily. I mean, downtown just got word of a Marriott hotel, Voodoo Brewing, and a high-end steakhouse. So what are the pros and the cons? So you have top-rated schools, especially Lexington School District 1 with River Bluff High School and Lexington High School topping on many of the sites. Now, as an agent, I gotta tell you, do your research, visit the school, as all these sites grade differently and a lot of people have different opinions. Now, you also have tons of newer home developments. And I recently did a series highlighting a ton of these like Longview, Bluefield, Barlake, Carriage Estates, and more. And I'm gonna circle back and remind you about that later, so feel free to hold tight if that's something you're interested in. You also in Lexington have public access to Lake Murray just minutes away. And of course, multiple neighborhoods on Lake Murray with homes right there on the water. So with the schools, neighborhoods with amenities, you know what that attracts? Tight-knit, family-friendly vibe. As well, this area does include the fast-growing Red Bank area. It is still part of the Lexington School District 1, zone for White Knoll High School. And one of the big reasons of this growth is your money just goes a little bit further on this side of town than on the side of town closer to the lake. I mean, this was once a rural area when we first moved to this area and has really popped off with tons of new developments and shopping, including the brand new Lowe's Food Grocery Shopping Center with Chipotle, Panda Express, Big Blue Martle Academy, and across street, Chick-fil-A, and a ton more. Either way, what are the cons of the Lexington area? Traffic is probably the biggest one. It's a growing concern in the area. If you've been on any Facebook group or in the comment section of my videos, you know this, especially on Highway 378 during rush hour. Now, if you visit in the summer on the weekend, might not feel that bad for you. But trust me, as someone who drives around the town most days, school traffic does create a ton of issues and delay. Now, again, I've always said this is perspective. Comparative to Los Angeles traffic, it isn't nothing. But continuing on, home prices as well have increased significantly over the last 5 to 10 years. I tell people it's honestly one of the biggest deterrents I tell people why some don't move to the area. They feel their money doesn't go as far as they thought when they hear about our average price point. Whether they feel it's new construction with their lots being too small, or still continuing to run into multiple offers to this day. And again, I will be diving into pricing of these areas later on, and I tailored the numbers to be more relative to what you'll actually see in these areas versus what I hit during my market report. So stick around for that. Either way, continuing on. You have fewer nightlife and those cultural experiences compared to what you'll get over in Columbia. I mean, we personally still do go down to downtown Columbia for certain things. Now, I know this dynamic has changed drastically over the years with more events, local concerts and such, but I know a lot of my clients coming from more popular cities feel it's just not quite up to speed. Next, we're gonna hit Irmo. So Irmo was kind of that classic suburban area that rapidly grew 70s, 80s, and 90s. And it's still holding strong, but in my opinion, it's much more of an urban sprawl. So the pros of it really is a convenient location because you got quick access to the interstate, I-26, if you're trying to commute back to Columbia. It is close, or really right smack in the middle of the Harbison shopping area, where you're gonna find most of the chain stores in the area, our mall, and the one and only Costco. And actually recently announced, I know some of you are excited about this, the second Trader Joe's to our area. The other Trader Joe's is an area we'll hit later on. And of course, Irmo borders Lake Murray Dam. And also with that, the largest public boat launch on the lake. Now, again, it tends to have more mature neighborhoods like Whitehall, Friarsgate, Quail Valley, and more, where you get, I know something a lot of people ask about, those bigger lots, tree-lined streets, and less of the HOAs. And it truly has a lower price point than the rest of Lexington in most cases, making it one of the most budget-friendly areas on this side of town without having to go into the rural areas. Now, as far as the cons, being when it was developed, some of these areas do feel dated or need a revitalization. As well, because of that, you have outdated infrastructure in many areas as well. And because there is a lack of room for growth, it means less revenue and money coming in to help fix these problems. As well, circling back to the cons, some of these schools vary by what school you're zoned for. Some are stronger than others though, so that's why again, you want to kind of lean on these sites to kind of help you narrow down where you want to be in the area. Now, you will also not see as much new construction as you will have in Lexington or Chapin. And again, for those looking for a small town feel, a lot of times they're taken back at the more urban feel, as there is no quaint downtown. It's more of those chain stores. Next, we head over to Chapin. So Chapin is known as the capital of Lake Murray. And fun fact, it was named after Martin Chapin, who was a transplant from New York. Either way, its proximity to the lake is what has it coined as the capital of Lake Murray. And you'll see plenty of stores and decor around, giving it that lake vibe. So you might want to consider a boat if you're moving to Chapin. Either way, the pros. So there are tons of Lake Murray waterfront homes and deep water access in the Chapin area. You have a lot more affordable lake neighborhoods than we typically see on the Lexington side. As well, you have the one and only golf course neighborhood on Lake Murray, Timberlake. You have a ton of high performing schools in the Lexington-Richland 5 school district that makes up the area. Again, it has that smaller town vibe with that strong sense of community, their community parks and more. It is great for those who do love boating, fishing, and kayaking, as you do have multiple free boat ramps to access Lake Murray, as well as a ton of marinas if you have a boat you need to slip. Now, some of the cons. It can be a much longer commute to downtown Columbia. Now, they have widened the interstate back and are still working on the interchange that direction, but with all the coves, it can be tricky just to even get to the interstate. Out there, you have limited dining and shopping options. While that's changing, you won't find a ton of chain stores. Housing, it's really competitive, especially near the lake. As well, you have tons of 2-lane roads and those coves that cause tons of congestion as it continues to grow. Next, heading over to West Columbia. This area is often truly overlooked, but has a ton of potential. So let's talk about the pros. So it's very close to downtown Columbia and the University of South Carolina, literally right on the other side of the river from it. It's trendy. They got tons of revitalized areas like State Street and the River District with breweries, community events, farmers markets, and a ton more happening on the regular basis. There's tons of affordable home prices and lots of those older brick homes with character that I know so many ask for. It really is great for first-time home buyers, investors, or those needing to commute downtown or to the college. Now, the cons of it. Many of the sites, they show the school ratings aren't as strong across the board as some of the other areas. Some pockets are still kind of in that transition. You have less of that suburban feel compared to Lexington, and more of that urban sprawl as Columbia continues to grow and expand. Now, let's look at the Columbia side of things. Now, when we're talking about this area, we're typically talking about Northeast Columbia, Blythewood, Elgin, and Forest Acres. And keep in mind, I will be covering pricing of these areas later to give you an idea so you can see how far your money truly goes in each of these areas. Now, let's get started with Northeast Columbia. This is one of the most urban feeling suburbs of Columbia, and it's a massive area that continues to grow. Let's talk about the pros. So you have tons of shopping. You have the villages at Sand Hills, as well as the revitalization of other malls in the area that will truly transform the area and add in tons of new restaurants. As well, you have tons of new construction in the area, giving buyers tons of options. Continuing on, it's close to downtown for those needing proximity to working or needing to go to hospitals, the University of South Carolina, and of course, Fort Jackson, which is great for military families. There's a variety of price points in neighborhoods. I mean, you have everything from entry level to some of the most expensive homes off the lake in our entire area. You have good access to I-20 to get back to Columbia, and even I-77 if you're heading up to Charlotte. And lastly, with the pros, again, those true master plan communities that I know so many of you seek out, like Lake Carolina, the Summit, and then those country club neighborhoods like Wood Creek Farms, Wildwood, and more. Either way, the cons. So it can feel a bit crowded or overdeveloped in areas. And again, less of that suburban feel outside of the neighborhoods and more of that urban feel. The schools, they're kind of a mix on the websites. Some are very good, others are just okay. As mentioned, it's socially, economically diverse. So one minute you're driving your $1 million homes, you turn the corner and it's $100,000 homes. Rush hour traffic around Two Notch Road can be rough. And thank goodness, the hardscrabble widening is closer to being done than it is far. Now let's head over to Blythewood. Blythewood offers a more rural feel, but has seen a big uptick in development over the past few years, especially with the recent development of the Scout Motors plants. So let's talk about the pros. Being that it's more rural, you kind of have these neighborhoods with larger lots and a lot of custom homes out there, to be honest. And you got a lot of peaceful neighborhoods. It's in the Richland School District too, and most sites show it as highly rated, especially Blythewood High School. You have quick access to I-77, so much faster commute back to Charlotte for those commuting to the area. It's great for buyers looking for land or privacy. When it comes to rural living, Blythewood tends to win over South Lexington rural areas like Pillion and Swansea and Gaston I mentioned because of its scenery, space, and that community vibe you still get. I mean, downtown they have Doco Meadows Park where they host community events. So you get that small town vibe. And circling back, for those not familiar, the other pro, the old Scout, which was the Bronco rival back in the day, was brought back by Volkswagen as an EV vehicle, and they selected Blythewood as the location for their plant to build them. This plant is well underway with plans to have vehicles rolling off in the next couple years. And I've already helped personally multiple clients relocate to the area who took jobs at Scout. It was originally said that it could bring 4,000 new jobs to the area. So that's why this area again is continuing to change by the day. Now rolling into the cons. Right now, there is limited retail or dining, though that's slowly changing, but many feel they have to leave the area for those bigger stores. New construction is starting to dominate. While some buyers love this, others just find it repetitive. It can feel a bit isolated if you're used to big city life. And again, with that growth, it's going to be changing rapidly as this Scout plant develops. Now heading over to Elgin. Now when I say Elgin, I mean the Kershaw County side. It's the area just northeast of Northeast Columbia, and it offers some of the most affordable housing. And I say this, as you will see, the Elgin zip code does roll into some of those Northeast Columbia neighborhoods like Wood Creek Farms and more, but that is still part of Richland County. But let's circle back. So the pros, being the Elgin part in Kershaw County does have lower property taxes, which again, I will break them down later when we talk about cost of living. You have a ton more space being rural and lower prices than you would in central Columbia. New construction is starting to boom, pushing further and further into the area with truly budget-friendly prices. Compared to, again, South Lexington rural areas of Pillion, Swansea, and Gaston, Elgin's rural neighborhoods are increasingly more popular due to their lower taxes and convenient access to Northeast Columbia. And you're truly not too far from from Camden if you're looking for more of that small town feel versus driving back into Northeast Columbia with that more urban feel. Now, what are the cons? So it is still a developing area, and so there's limited amenities and shopping for now. You really got to, again, drive into Northeast Columbia or Camden for anything big. You're going to have longer commute times heading back into Columbia than you would per se in Northeast Columbia. School grading, this again can vary, so you'll want to do your research on this in the Elgin area. Now, we head over to Forest Acres. Now, this one's a bit different. It's not a suburb in the traditional sense, but more of a inner ring community right next to downtown Columbia. But it has its perks that people love and seek out. So, the pros of it. You have tons of historic homes with character. Think those brick ranches, mid-century styles, and more. You have lots of walkable areas with parks, boutiques, and restaurants. It's close to the University of South Carolina and downtown Columbia. It's a very stable, established community. While there's no HOA, it has city guidelines keeping properties maintained, which means values stay higher. As well, their downtown has a ton of trendy shops in the area. You're talking about Whole Foods, you're talking about Trader Joe's, Vicious Biscuits, higher-end apartment complexes, and a ton more. But it rolls us into the cons. Prices can be higher due to the location and charm, which again we'll dive into in just a little bit here. Homes, they're older. Expect some updates or maintenance needs, quirky layouts, or what I like to call the funhouse foundations. It's less of that planned community feel that we see in newer developments and more of that urban style. Now, let's talk population density real quick, and then we'll hit some rapid fire need to know, followed by pricing. So the Lexington suburbs, Chapin, again, tend to be a little bit more spread out. You'll find those larger lots, more cul-de-sacs, and more of that classic small town suburban feel. Lexington proper, gonna be more densely populated than Chapin, but still maintains that small town atmosphere. West Columbia, Irmo, again, a little bit more of that urban feel. Columbia suburbs, particularly Northeast Columbia, more densely packed. Master plan communities, subdivision with smaller lots, and townhomes are becoming more common. Forest Acres feels that urban suburban with a tight layout, while Blythewood and Elgin are offering more breathing room in a rural environment. So if you're looking for true rural living, Elgin might be it. In between with a little more elbow room, probably Blythewood or Chapin might be your speed. But if you want convenience and access, Forest Acres, Northeast Columbia, or Lexington could be a better match. Now, what does that actually mean as far as number and statistics go? So you can compare to where you're coming from. Pull up the data for your area. Because to give you an idea, from my perspective, the town I grew up in when we moved there when I was less than 1 year old back in the 80s had a population of about 70,000 people. Today has over 230,000 people, which is made to be the third largest city in Los Angeles County with approximately 3,232 people per square mile. In comparison, the city of Columbia itself is 991.45 people per square mile. But let's dive into the suburbs. So these are coming from the census. So keep in mind, they may have changed, gone up, or people may have lied on the census. Either way, the population density in Northeast Columbia is 2,070 people per square mile. The population density in Blythewood is 449 people per square mile. The population density in Elgin is 485 people per square mile. Forest Acres, population density of 2,301 people per square mile. Heading over to Lexington. The town of Lexington has a population density of 1,962 people. The zip code 29073, which does include those areas of White Knoll and Red Bank, part of Lexington, has a population density of 594 people per square mile. Now, for reference, again, not to get too much on a tangent, Lexington County as a whole, which does encompass a whole lot more than we talked about, has a population density of 420.6 people per square mile. Irmo has a population density of 1,660.54 people per square mile. Chapin, 543 people per square mile. The population density in West Columbia, approximately 1,937 people per square mile. Now, let's hit some rapid fire need to know points before we hit what the actual average prices are. So the general Lexington area, schools are a major selling point, especially Lexington 1 and Lexington Richland 5. You have better access to Lake Murray, family friendly and very community oriented. Cheaper property taxes than Richland County, which is on the Columbia side. And their property taxes in Lexington come in right around 0.57% of the assessed value. You have growing traffic and rising prices. Now the Columbia area, more variety in home types and prices. Closer access to hospitals, major employers, Fort Jackson, University of South Carolina, and the new Scout Motors. Northeast Columbia and Blythewood are booming with new development. More diversity in lifestyle options, from rural to suburban to urban. Richland property taxes, slightly higher, at approximately 0.74% of the assessed value. With that said, Kershaw County, the Elgin area property taxes estimate around 0.53% of the assessed value. So I'm going to break down the average prices for the areas. Now, if you watch my market report, the local market I share is based on the median price of everything, whether it's condos, mobile homes, or single family. But in this, I chose single family homes that had at least 3 bedrooms and closed this year. As well, I was more narrow on the areas. For instance, when I did Irmo, I did those zoned for Irmo High School and Dutch Fork High School in the Lexington Richland 5 school district, where the general includes St. Andrews area, which has a significantly lower average price point. So hopefully this will give you an idea of what is most current and closer match to what to expect, and you will see a big change from the market report data, just to be honest, and I'm going to update this in my next market report. Either way, Northeast Columbia, what we saw on average was $345,000. Blythewood, $395,000. Forest Acres, $502,000. Elgin, $311,000. Lexington, $355,000. Irmo, $316,000. Chapin, $424,000. And West Columbia, $286,000. Heading on to Lake Murray itself, actual lakefront homes. On the Lexington side, on average, $1,640,000. On the Irmo and Chapin side, $1,120,000. At the end of the day, both Lexington and Columbia suburbs offer fantastic options depending on your lifestyle, commute needs, and what kind of community vibe you're after. I mean, I've sold tons of clients on both sides of town. So if you're looking for help on deciding which area is right for you, go ahead and reach out. My team and I help people relocate to the Columbia, Lexington, and Lake Murray suburbs every single week, and we'd love to help you too. As well, comment below which suburb you think you're leaning toward, or if there's one we didn't cover that you want to hear more about. And to learn more about that new construction area, you want to check out this playlist here, where I actually break down not only the process, but all the new and up and coming developments on all sides of towns. Or you can check out the other playlist where I actually break down what neighborhoods look like in all different price points, resales, so you can see what that average price actually gets you in the area.